Did you know that an Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? Masha has actually confessed her love to Kuze before? In the manga, after Kuze joined the student council and asked Alia to be her running mate in the student council election, Alia blushed and accepted Kuze as her running mate. She then spoke in Russian and said that she loved Kuze. After hearing this, Kuze had flashbacks to all the times that he has heard that same phrase in Russian before, remembering it being said in Russian shows and movies that he had watched with his grandpa. However, he also remembered the same phrase being said to him by the Russian girl he used to see when he was younger, as he vividly remembered her saying his name, and then the same exact phrase in Russian that Alia had just said to him. Kuze reacted the same exact way to the phrase both times, as he admitted that he felt the feeling of love after the girl from his past said it when they were kids, and just now, when Alia said it. However, unbeknownst to Kuze, the girl from his past happened to be Masha. Was Meliodas' and Elizabeth's curse really a curse in the 7 deadly sins? Meliodas was cursed with immortality, while Elizabeth was cursed with infinite reincarnation over 3,000 years ago. But in reality, it might not all be bad. The worst part of the curse is the fact that Elizabeth does not have any of her past memories during that lifetime, aside from the final 3 days she has when she does regain them. But at the very least, Meliodas and Elizabeth end up loving each other in some capacity during each life, even if she doesn't remember past events. There have been times where the curse has saved both Meliodas and Elizabeth, like when Meliodas was fighting the 10 Commandments and they unalived him, but thanks to his curse, he was able to come back to life and continue spending time with Elizabeth and loving her. It was also implied that Meliodas had also died several times before that in a conversation with Zarathustra, where he said he has tried everything to not live for 3,000 years. The curse had also saved Elizabeth several times, as the 100+ times she had died, she was able to be reincarnated and give Meliodas another chance to break the curse, and it was proven to be somewhat of a blessing when the Demon King threatened to break the curse and then unalive Elizabeth to hurt Meliodas even more than just normally unaliving her. So the curse could be a curse and a blessing. What did each of the sins do while they were in hiding from Leonis and the 7 deadly sins? All of the sins were betrayed and set up by the holy knights and were forced to go into hiding, with some sins starting successful ventures and another vowing to get revenge on another sin. For Meliodas, he was knocked unconscious by Merlin and had his powers stolen by her. After he woke up, he was in a cave where he met Hawk, and the two of them decided to start a restaurant on the top of Hawkmama using funds from selling Meliodas' sacred treasure. Merlin fled all the way to the kingdom of Camelot, where she met Arthur for the first time. It was during this time that she realized he was the perfect candidate to become a host for chaos, and then he was exactly what she needed to execute her plan. So she helped him grow stronger. Bond became depressed and intentionally let himself get arrested, where he spent the years in prison, occasionally escaping to donate blood to the Fairy King's forest, but always getting recaptured. Escanor decided to flee to the mountains and start a secret bar. Despite its location, it did end up receiving some business, as he had to make several deliveries, and he kept it well maintained. Gowther was taken into the care of a young boy and his father, after encountering a crazed beast and covering it in his armor and being injured. He was hired by the boy's father to look after the kid. Diane was able to escape to the forest of White Dreams, where she forced the hide and seek imps to hide her in the forest. King returned to his hometown, where he found out that a bandit had stolen the Fountain of Youth and unalived the guardian saint. Later, he was informed that that person was Bond and decided to get revenge. Who does Bond respect the most in the 7 deadly sins? There are several people that have been friends or allies of Bond throughout the story, but despite that, the person he respects the most isn't who you'd expect. The most obvious candidate would be Meliodas, as they've been great friends for years, and Bond even got severely depressed when there were rumors that he passed away. They're such good friends that Bond even spent centuries in purgatory searching for his emotions. However, there is someone he respects even more than Meliodas. Another person Bond respects a lot is Elaine, as she is his lover. His love for her is so strong that he did everything he could to bring her back to life, and even gave up his immortality for her. But even Elaine isn't the person he respects the most. The person he respects the most is actually someone he met a lot more recently than his other allies. When they first met, the person was actually annoyed with Bond, and they have been disgusted with some of his actions. Despite this, the two of them are great companions and are willing to support each other whenever one of them is in need. Bond respects this person so much that he even calls him master. The person Bond respects the most isn't even from any of the 5 main races, but is actually a creature from purgatory. That person is Hawk.
Did you know that an Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? Alia used to have a very different appearance. Over summer break in the novels, Kuze and Alia were walking through a train station together when something caught their eye. It turned out to be a picture of Nanoa modeling on a poster with a bunch of other models, and it caught both of them by surprise because of how much Nanoa stood out with her looks despite how attractive everybody else on the poster was. Kuze was especially shocked, and he ended up staring for a decent amount of time while also complimenting her looks. Unfortunately, he was with Alia, and she ended up pinching his cheek break because she was upset with him looking at another woman while he was out with her. Kuze gave her an excuse that it was because her blonde hair stood out so his eyes were naturally drawn to it, but Alia immediately questioned why he was drawn to Nanoa's hair and not her silver hair. This forced him to say that he thought her hair was beautiful too, but she casually brushed it off and revealed to him that back in her childhood, she used to look extremely different. This was because her hair wasn't actually always silver, as it used to be blonde just like Nanoa's, meaning a young Alia would have blue eyes and blonde hair just like Kuze's childhood friend. Why and how did Yuki end up as an otaku and Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian? She grew up bedridden in a noble household that she currently can't even take any of her nerdy merch back to, so it's obvious that there is nothing pushing her to become one growing up, but she still did for one simple reason. You'd think that after their parents' divorce, she'd actually have a reason to ignore anything related to anime completely, because with Kuze leaving, she was forced to become the heir to the Suo family, and that meant taking on the burden of all the work. And on top of that, she was always less talented than Kuze, so she would need to invest a lot more time than he did to meet the expectations of that title. It's simply a burden that would put an insane amount of stress on anybody, and she wouldn't have a lot of free time to enjoy anime. But despite all of that, it was somehow after their parents' divorce that she would actually get interested in anime and manga and become an otaku. And it's simply because Yuki's one of the best sisters in anime with one of the biggest hearts, even though we can all agree that she can be a little questionable at times, but she didn't want Kuze to have to feel guilty about the burden he put on her by leaving, so she studied up on how to be an adorable little sister for him through anime, and over time she became hooked. What happened to all of Eris's family after the displacement incident in Mushoku Tensei? We all know what happened to Eris after she got sent to the demon continent, but what about everybody else from her family? Many people know that her parents, Philip and Hilda, passed away sometime after the incident, but it wasn't instant. The two of them were actually teleported together to a place called the Conflict Zone, an area where a ton of small countries were constantly at war with each other, and there weren't any laws at all. And because of that, both Philip and Hilda were captured, and they would shortly meet their end after that. As it happened, Ghislaine was also teleported to the Conflict Zone, and her skills as a swordsman and an adventurer allowed her to survive. She would spend her time trying to search for anybody she knew, and she would eventually find Philip and Hilda, but by then, it was already too late. As for Saros, all we know is that nobles who had a grudge against him, mainly Paimon Greyrat, tried to think of a plan to try and take him out, and that would lead to Saros later getting blamed and executed for the displacement incident and the tragedies caused by it.
Did you know that in Re:Zero, the reality of the Re:Zero world would have been a lot more tragic if Subaru was never summoned? As a result of Subaru not being summoned into the Re:Zero world, Felt and Amelia would have been unalived by Elsa the same day that Subaru was supposed to be summoned, as he would have never been there to anticipate Elsa's attack on the two girls, and instead, they would end up meeting their tragic fate in the house that old man Ram stayed at. On top of that, Beatrice would have never left the Forbidden Library, as that person never existed, and Subaru wouldn't be there to convince her to leave, leaving her to wait in the Forbidden Library forever. Subaru's absence would also leave Krush and her army to try and fight the White Whale on their own, and that would most likely end up in them being erased from existence from the White Whale's fog, as they didn't have any of the knowledge that Subaru would have provided them with. Garfield would also still be stuck in the sanctuary, as nobody would come and help them resolve their issues, and the Great Rabbit and White Whale would still be alive, terrorizing the world. You know that Yuki has 3 different personality types, and Alia sometimes hides her feelings in Russian. She may seem normal to people that don't know her, but she actually has different personalities based on the situation and environment she's in, and there's 3 different ones. And the first type is her elegant personality. In this persona, she acts very professional and elegant, just like a noble woman. She tends to act like this in public and around her grandfather, and due to this, it's the personality most people actually recognize and see her as. However, if someone actually got to know Yuki, it'd be like meeting a whole different person. This is due to her otaku personality. This is probably her true personality, as it is how she acts around the people she's closest with, like Kuze and Ayano. In this personality, she is free to be herself, and she acts like a complete and total nerd. She is constantly talking about manga or anime, and sometimes she acts like she's the main character of a show. She also makes crazy jokes, and does whatever cringy things that she wants. But Yuki most likely hides this side of her from the public due to her family's name and reputation, as well as the expectations from her grandfather. Yuki's third personality type also comes from the fact that she is an otaku at heart. It is her evil genius personality, where she acts like she is a rival love interest to Alia. Did you know that in Bunny Girl Senpai, Mai is the only character that has had to deal with puberty syndrome twice? The first time she experienced it was when she was disappearing from society because she wished to be forgotten by the world after her mother forced her to do a photo shoot while wearing a swimsuit during middle school. However, that would be fixed once she met Sakuta, and he helped convince her to get back into show business, and would later publicly confess his love for her, forcing everyone around him to acknowledge her existence, solving her puberty syndrome. The second time was when she switched bodies with her sister Nodoka. It was mainly Nodoka's puberty syndrome, as she had an inferiority complex towards Mai because she was better than her at everything. However, it was hinted at by Futaba that Mai might have been slightly jealous of Nodoka in return due to her not having to live under all the pressure of being Mai Sakurajima, resulting in them switching into each other's bodies. This would be solved after Mai told Nodoka that she doesn't have to be exactly like her, but instead, she just has to be the best version of herself. After Nodoka came to that realization, their bodies would suddenly switch back, solving both of their puberty syndromes. This sets Mai apart as all the other characters in the series have only experienced it once thus far, leaving Mai as the only one who has experienced it twice.